So as we get started today, we can just move right into the silence. Going right into an inner quiet place. And on this Easter Sunday, we can take Holy Spirit's hand we can roll away the stone from all of the dark and hidden thoughts in our mind. And ultimately, we will see there's nothing there. When we roll away the stone within our mind, we usually expect to find the proof of some guilt or sin, something bad. But the resurrection of the mind shines the light on the shadow. Helps us to see it was nothing more than false perception. Like a magician's trick tries to show us something that isn't there. All of our proof of guilt, wrongdoing is actually just a trick. A deception. But once we know how the trick is done, it doesn't draw us in anymore. And we're seeing how this trick of perception and projection. How it's unfolded. And it's starting to have less of a draw to us, less of a power. Even the most impressive magician, maybe like David Copperfield, when you know how the trick is done, it doesn't impress. We just can't believe anymore what we used to believe. So if there's any upset, any judgment within, any anger, let yourself ask Spirit to show you the trick, to reveal the quote unquote magic. To help you see that there's nothing there. So when we do roll away this stone covering over what's in our mind, it becomes a joyous experience to realize that what you thought was there was not there. And as we open up all of these hidden, closed parts within our mind to the light, we just feel more and more free, more and more open. So I also just felt to read a little bit from the course this morning. As we talk about washing away all of the false thoughts, this passage from Shadows of the Past, chapter 17, section 3, helps us to see how this works. He says, to forgive is merely to remember only the loving thoughts you gave in the past and those that were given you. All the rest must be forgotten. Forgiveness is a selective remembering based not on your selection. So again, this is the real washing away of anything that is upsetting, suffering, makes us angry. We come to see that none of that ever happened. And again, this so fits with our Easter message of resurrection. Jesus reminded us that the message of the crucifixion is teach only love, for that is what you are. He knew he wasn't dying. He knew there was no death. He knew that even the body seeming to come back didn't really matter, except as maybe a helpful message to show that the world is not the cause, the mind is the cause. So he goes on from here. Again, forgiveness is a selective remembering based not on your selection. The Holy Spirit selects for us. For the shadow figures you would make immortal are enemies of reality. Again, all of the quote unquote upsetting, challenging things that you judge or find hard, these are the enemies of reality, quote unquote enemies, because we try to prove that heaven isn't real when we believe these things. We try to prove that love isn't real. But we can't really prove that. We can be fooled. We can fool ourselves for a while, but we can't make the untrue true. We can't make what is whole broken. So again, what we're doing is we're forgetting what isn't true. We're forgetting the ego grievances. And we just do that over and over each time another grievance comes up. Each time another anger appears. And each time we release this, each time we let this go, we are pulling up the root, the false root of separation. This false vine will wither away and be gone. And it's so helpful to remember that the ego has no power except the power that we give to it. And what we can see, because in our experience, oftentimes the ego feels very intense, very upsetting, very strong, is that shows us how much we subconsciously invest in the thought of being separate, which is what the ego is. It's just the thought of being separate. It looks like Lori and Gareth came in. They were getting blown away out on the patio. I almost expected, just one of you to go up. Maybe we can use that wind as a symbol to let it blow away the ego, blow away the fears and the doubts. Okay. So someone who has something on their heart, something like to share, give over to that healing wind.
Yeah, I'd like to share. Mm-hmm. Can't believe my mouth opened and said that.
Can you guys hear Anne?
Sorry?
Anne, would you mind coming up? I know it might just help everyone to hear you.
Yeah, I've had a separation thought in my mind from this morning, and it was really strong. And it's about a function in the kitchen and feeling kind of separate. And just allowing spirit to show me that through your words actually was really helpful, and see what's going on. It begins with some sort of belief in separation, and then I see it, like playing out. But there's a fear, like of totally letting go and just allowing the healing, because there's a lack of trust or something there, that I don't. It's like new territory. I don't know how to completely let go. It's like there's got to be a part for me in this when there isn't. Does that make sense? Yeah. And that it can't get worked out unless I'm involved, as a person. So that's really what I want to raise up, and release that doubt, and increase that faith. Because then it's like, well, I never had a part in it anyway. So, how do I accept that? Mm. And there's such a longing to let go as well. Mm. So it's like if you sort that out on the screen, then you'll feel okay here, and that's back to front, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I can say the words, but I'm not actually feeling them. So that's, Mm.
Yeah. There's often a period of real turbulence or challenge as we're letting go of the personality self, letting go of the small s self, the belief that this person is you.
Mm. Yeah, I did get a sense of a real terror in that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was directed to just keep coming back and looking.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to flip out.
Mm. Yeah, because the real peace is beyond the terror. Often, like you're saying, we get close to the terror and we run back away.
Mm.
It's a normal response, but eventually we want to be with it fully, because then we go through it and we actually find that really big safety that maybe you've had in glimpses or pieces.
Yeah. But there is a sense that that's not enough, the lesson talks about the constancy today as well. Yeah. Because it's like the question is like, well, how? But then I just hear David saying, the house, Holy Spirit.
Yeah. 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 And just allowing the fear or the terror helps it to move through. We don't want to get stuck there, but we don't want to hide from it either. So I think just knowing that it's not where we're going, we're not going to the terror, we're going through the terror. And that on the other side is what we want. I think that helps us often to feel it all, to move through it fully. Yeah, there's a real power in allowing all of this to be seen. Going back to that Easter symbol, like rolling away the stone, often in that part where we feel like we are opening into something, that's when the terror is really the strongest. Because we think we know something really horrible is coming. we don't know that there's nothing there quite yet. We're almost to that realization. I just even get this image, sometimes pushing the stone feels heavy or feels hard. I get this image of actually Jesus helping us, putting his shoulder into it. He's really there to support the journey. He wants us to see there is no death, there is no pain, there is no ego, truly. But he says that in the text too. There are times where we have to face seeming terror. And I think the fact that he calls it seeming terror is helpful too. In the middle of it, it doesn't feel like it's just an appearance of terror. It feels like terror. But he knows there's no real cause for the upset. And we can ask for his help, or again, Holy Spirit, if that is more your symbol, ask for their help. And know that it's given. The help is here. Anything else ready to be given to the wind? It's good to have you there.
Yeah, I do have two things in my mind for the moment. With the the first thing that's in my mind every day is so I'm doing this treatment to get off methadone, and yeah, I'm using ibogaine with doctors every week, and it reduces the tolerance. Right, but this whole how to say idea of effect of pleasure and pain of the drug that's caused by the medication, well, is very strong, and from what I learned from the course, it's an illusion, but it's a very strong one that doesn't always seem to be an illusion.
Yeah.
So for, well, I'm doing this with doctors, and they the expectation of the program is to divide the medication by 2 every week, but every time it's too much, so I go back up a little bit. I feel I'm in no rush, and that staying with pain is not really the best idea if I'm not able to get out of it with prayers or with so I'm taking more time than planned. I feel it's the right thing to do than to suffer, but I don't know.
Yeah. I think this point that you're bringing up is a good one, which is that we're not asked to kind of jump to a place on the path farther than we are. So, Jesus uses the word magic to describe the things of the world that seem to help us, that seem to give us what we want. And, medication is on that list, but so is food, so is the warmth of the sun, so is everything here in the world that we think is what we need. So we don't have to give those things up. We don't have to, kind of go into being an ascetic, giving up everything in the world. That's not the direction that the Course takes. But it's simply about watching the mind around all of it. So even as you are using this medication that's helping you right now, a part of you knows that it's not the cure. A part of you knows that the real deeper healing is around undoing the guilt in your mind. And Jesus even advocates this specifically. He talks about how often it's most helpful to use a compromise approach. He says there, yes, the mind is powerful enough. You could heal yourself, but almost no one is ready for that quick of a healing. And so we use the things of the world, but we start to realize that's not where the healing is. Healing is not in medication. Healing is not in eating the right diet. Healing is not, in any of these things of the world that we think are what we need. The healing is only ever in real peace of mind. And as we do this, as we practice our forgiveness day in, day out, with all the things that show up, all the details of the story of the life that we think is our life, we melt this guilt in our mind. We melt the fear in our mind. And it's only at the very end of that journey that we would suffer nothing. We would really get what Jesus said, that the message of the crucifixion is teach only love, for that is what you are. But there's actually no pressure. There's no rush to get there. Almost everyone, when we start with the Course, has this thought, I want to be done. I want to be done with the ego. I want to be done with fear. I want to be done with suffering, which is a great desire. But then we run up against our deep resistance. The part of us that wants to hang on to our judgments, hang on to our anger, hang on to this concept of who we are. And this is why, even as intense as practicing the Course can be, when these really dark, deep things come up, it is actually a gentle path. It's a gentle path that we can take. He even says that we can take what parts of it we elect to at any given time. We don't get to establish what we need to heal. We don't get to establish the curriculum. But we do get to choose when we're going to take the steps. Now, we're going to be encouraged to take them more quickly rather than less quickly, because that's the way out of suffering. But yeah, in your example, when you reduce the medication and it leads to suffering and leads to pain, I think you're doing it the right way, you know. Increase the medication a bit until you feel okay. Let yourself move through it in a gentle way. And while you're doing that, keep watching the mind. Watch your judgments, watch your fears.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
Hi, Ali. Yeah, I'm really, really happy to hear, you know, you being at this stage of your recovery, and you're joining these Zoom groups and you're communicating. That's really going to serve you well, I think. Like I was in your shoes. I remember years ago coming off methadone, and I never really saw any help. I didn't make them connections. And the addictions they didn't really go away. They transferred onto other things, and the journey became a much longer process. The recovery became a much longer process. So I'm just really happy to see you where you're at now, and you're expressing, you're talking about your feelings. I'm really happy. Yeah, I'm with you, brother.
Okay, so is there anyone else with something on their heart? I keep thinking it might be you, Marcella.
Yeah, well, I have a question.
Yeah.
We're gonna share. You want me to go?
Yeah, why don't you come up here? Please.
Hi, everyone. So yeah, it's more a question, because I feel like in the last couple of days, I've been feeling that whenever I say something or I do something around the kitchen function, there's anger coming up. And I know, like, I'm aware it's nothing about form. There's nothing I can do to change what I say or do. If anger is coming up, it's not mine. It's someone else's anger. But I feel like it doesn't matter what I say or what I do. It's coming up. And it's more, I think, in the willingness to allow that anger to come up and just let it out. And I was wondering for myself, like, how am I feeling about this? Because it's usually, I'm not used to having someone angry at me. But I know it's part of the configuration to allow that to come up. but I feel like I don't know how to be truly helpful in this particular.
Yeah, I think, this is a thing that happens in almost every connection. And I think that the work is mostly around acknowledging your own reaction. If there's a feeling of defensiveness, if there's a feeling of being a victim, if there's a feeling of shutting down, those are the things that you can really be aware of and you can practice on. At times it can be named, like just say, I'm feeling that there's anger here. Is this something we can look at together, or there's just something I wanted to express? It feels like it's here right now. But most of the time it's more about just being present with what you're feeling, doing your forgiveness on that. There was a story of Buddha that I don't know if it's a myth or if it actually something like this happened, where Buddha was traveling around and he was approaching this village and people were leaving the village and they were saying, don't go there, there's a crazy man there, a dangerous man. Buddha just kept walking right into the village and he came to this man who was in like some sort of rage. And he basically didn't accept, he didn't really believe in this man's rage. So it was like, the story was something like the man tried everything to kind of like throw his anger at the Buddha, but the Buddha was just calm and peaceful. And eventually the man's rage turned into tears and he moved through the emotions that he had. And I think it's just sort of a symbolic story of how we can start to practice around people who have emotions that maybe in the past have made us uncomfortable. We don't have to take it in. We don't have to make it ours. Again, sometimes we are called to communicate what we're feeling, what we're noticing. But I would say just to be really prayerful around that, because it's also something the ego can take. Like, oh, you're in your anger, and we can express from a judgmental way or a blaming way, and we definitely want to avoid that. So if you're uncertain, I think it's best just to stay with what your inner process is. And just allow your own emotions, allow your own reactions, but more an inward way for healing rather than a reactive way that would kind of inflame the situation.
Thank you.
Yeah, because there's no victim. There's no victim in any situation.
I actually had in mind yesterday the thought that the ego always wants us to see we're either a victim or a victimizer.
Yeah.
But there's always this sense of guilt, someone, or it's either someone being guilty or us being guilty. But really, like I can see, like I can open myself to see there's no guilt because I don't feel guilty at all. But it's probably the first time in my life that I don't feel guilty because I don't see guilt. And yeah, it's just, from there, I really don't know like how to be helpful or how to hold the space or how to allow that and see, like go beyond the ego thoughts.
Yeah, and I would say also specifically around community, it's never your role to like try to heal someone else.
Yeah.
You know, it's always to bring it back to what's
To-
going within.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if something does seem like a dynamic that you are struggling with and it hasn't been resolving,
Yeah.
then yeah, to come to Matthew to bring it forward. Or if Matthew's not available, to let us know.
Yeah, actually, that's something that I think would be really helpful
Mhm.
to join in prayer. Yeah, because I feel like there's not much like I can do in a way. It's just like for me, it's just like I realized it's the first time I don't feel guilty about. It's like really I can see that forgive me for what I have not done. Like forgive me for what hasn't really happened.
Mhm.
And that's like the prayer I have in my mind. And but yeah, I don't know how to really relate in function to that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we can join more about that later and see what
Mm.
feels helpful. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just so beautiful to be able to just express, yeah, out loud. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So we talk about this sort of being Holy Week, Easter time, and I think there is a real holiness in our gathering, a real holiness, yeah, just in our shared purpose. Yeah. Yeah. Let that Christ be resurrected in you. Let that be alive as we go into the rest of our Easter Sunday here. Okay. As always, the door is open. You know, if there are more thoughts or sharings or anything that needs to be connected around, just let us know. Let me know. Okay. I have an image of like an Easter basket full of love. It's a little gift to everyone. So let your day be like an Easter egg hunt where you find little gifts of love everywhere you go. Yeah. All right. Let's say farewell for now.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Love you all.